Good morning. You are in my greenhouse right now, but today we've got some projects outside to do, and I thought I would just bring you along. I am going to put irrigation in the rest of the raised bed because I've already had to water them 2 or 3 times and it takes forever. So I want to get the rest of this in so that I can just hook it up, set my timer, and let it go. This was the most economical irrigation that I decided to do. I didn't want to buy a kit because I didn't think it would just fit my raised beds. So I want to show you what I've done and how I'm doing it and maybe inspire you a little bit if you want to try it. I usually just take a bucket out here with me and put everything I need in the bucket except for the actual lines. So I'm just basically opening all these bags and gonna put them in here. Now this is the brand that I buy just because this is what my local Menards store has. I checked both and I went with Menards because they had everything that I needed. Did a little bit of research and now I know what I need and I can just go and get the extras. I had a little bit left over last year, but I did have to buy a few things and some more black pipe, but I think I have plenty of the actual drip hose, so I guess we'll see once I get into it. Got all my stuff out here. So this is the line that I buy. It is rainbow foot rolls and it is 1/2 inch drip tubing. Now these don't actually have holes in them. This is just straight tubing. I can poke the holes in them and then put the drip tubing on it. And I do have a little tool that does that, that makes it pretty easy to do. So the reason I'm on this side is because I actually ended the drip tubing right here at this bed. So I'm gonna continue it, but I'm actually gonna put a T when I get out here instead of just an elbow, because I want it to actually come this way to the raised beds, this new row here. But I also want it to go this way, and I'll show you why. So if I'm standing looking at from the end of this bed, you'll notice that my caterpillar tunnel is out there that needs to be finished, and that one end fixed. But I actually have quite a few things out there that I have to water, and watering everything out there takes me a really long time to water it well. So I'm going to send a line all the way out there and put drip tubing that I can disconnect from here and roll it up and put it out at the caterpillar tunnel. That way we can mow and it's not in the way. So that is the plan. So I hopefully have a piece that I looked at and that I bought that can fit on the end, and it has a cap on the end of it when I'm not using it. The other can be rolled up and I can put an end on it so nothing gets in it. And then when I need to water everything, I'll just unroll it, hook it here, and when this fills in this, it will go and it will fill out that as well. So hopefully that all worked, and I can just set my timer. Everything will be watered and I can do other things while that happens. Now normally when I deep water my garden with my drip irrigation, I set my timer for an hour. I don't know if that's like too much water or if that's not enough, but it seems to be working well so far. So I don't know, we'll see. That'd be something to look and see what how much water you need. I know that raised beds dry out easier. Sometimes I can kind of tell and see if it's really, really dry. But the good thing about these drip hoses, let me show you, is you can just place them where you want them. So I don't have, water's not going to get, while it's going to probably get everywhere and soak in, it is going to concentrate where I have those. So when I plant things, like this was really tiny, it was really struggling, and now it's looking really good. My sweet potato slips and everything are looking good, and that's why I have just those 3, and I can plant stuff usually a foot apart is approximately what I would plant in here anyway. So that's why there are 3 lines in my beds, because they are 3 feet wide. And so I kind of put them in the middle of the foot, because normally that's where I would be planting bigger items, cabbages, kale, stuff like that will be planted like that. And if there's anything smaller, it's going to drip in there as well. So let's go ahead and get this going, and we'll see how long this takes. First up is this straight piece, because I did not, for some reason, bring it all the way to the end of the... You know what? I don't have to do that. I can use a T and I will just go right across. That way I don't have to waste this and a small piece of tubing. So let's go with a T. So right here is where I stopped it. So I'll just take this off. I'm going to put the T like this. I was going to put it like, but actually this will work out. So I'm going to put the T. This end will go out to the caterpillar tunnel. This will go straight across with a tube to the other line, or the other, I guess, row of raised beds. One thing I will say that this is much easier to work with when it is warm because the sun heats this up and it's much more pliable, especially when you're using these tees here that are a little bit harder to use, but they do stay on really, really well. There are also some that look like this on the inside, but they're much more expensive. This is the one I was telling you about that's going to go on this end after I put a little piece of pipe, and this will be where I connect the other onto. So I'm gonna slide this down like this, up. This will use that, and then maybe increased for a while. And then I will add this, add some pipe, and we'll get going. You can see I've got water coming out, which I don't really want a whole lot of that coming out. So I've got this piece on. It's just kind of a booger to get it over that first barb, but after that you kind of wiggle it back and forth and it goes on pretty easy up to there. And then, so I've got this here, and I'm gonna show you, how easy this is. So if you want ease and you've got a little bit more money to spend, if you want to get these kinds, and I can show you this kind. I do have some because they were out of the other ones at the time of last year, but let me show you how easy these go on. All right, so these are pretty easy because you just take basically this and you just push it on the end of it. And that's it. That's how easy those are to use. And then, so I'll leave this on, and then I can take this off, and there's another end in there. I can put the pipe on there. When I'm done, I'll just put this back on. So here's one of them. This is a 90 that just kind of, you just push them in there and it kind of locks them in there. They do work well, much easier to assemble, but like I said, these are individually a few dollars, where I can get a whole pack of like 6, I think, for either less or the same price. I know they have the 90s like that. I don't know if they have the tees, which I mean, I'm sure they do. But like I said, I just like to keep things as frugal as possible. And if I'm going to use this, then, and if I can, you know, put them together pretty easily, then I'll just use the barbed ones and save me a little bit of money. So I do not bring a tape measure out here with me. I basically lay this black pipe. I will lay it from there over to here. That will be my measure. And that's how I roll with it. Okay, a little bit change of plans. I actually just took that piece off that was in there and put a new piece of pipe starting here and ran it all the way over to the edge, then connected that, which I think I can just bend that up or over, and then put this one, and I will run it all the way over here and find my corner, and I will cut it and put it here. The reason I changed my mind is because all of my raised beds have the spigot that turns off each bed on this side. So this row would have been totally different if I would have continued the way I was doing, and that was really gonna bother me. So that way, if I need to, I can run down, I can walk down each row, look at it, and turn it off if I need to. And that way this one is not the only one that is on the other side. And so now they're all the same. But I do have a little piece of pipe. I did have to just cut it a little bit on the barb to slip it off, pretty easy. And so I do have an extra piece of pipe, which I will probably get ready and probably in this bed here in just a minute. So basically this is me measuring. I just run it right along here to the edge and get a corner piece. And so this is what it's gonna look like. It's gonna go right here. And so that tells me where I need to cut it, and I will cut it, put another piece down the other way. I have very good props for the camera right now. So this, got this cut, and this is how I was talking about how we would, all right, well, get some of these weeds out of your way. How I will just kind of wiggle this on once you get it past that barb. And like I said, it helps a lot if this black piping is warm. So there's past the first barb, actually the only barb, I guess. And then I just wiggle it back and forth. And you probably don't have to go all the way here, but I usually do just in case. Or pretty close anyways. There you have it. And I have these ground stakes. Because this is such a long span right here, I will go ahead and tack this one down. And actually I may wait and I may tack it down over here. And then I will tack it once more on the corner for when it goes up into the bed. Yeah, my poor little plant there needs some water, I think. So I got the garden stake in, and I'm just gonna run this over to here. This is where the T will go. And then we'll come up, we will have a corner right here, and then we'll put a little bit of pipe and we'll have our shut off, and then a little bit more pipe. Alright, so there we go. Corner, around, we got a T, and then comes up, corner, there's the shut-off. I had to look and see. I want my shut-offs to all go the same way so that I know which way to flip them. And then we just added a line, put and I'm actually still undecided. I think these are going to be filled up next year, but these here, to save some money, I'm actually going to take the top board layer off. I'm just going to cut it in the middle, and they'll already be together, and just take the top off and put it over there so that this row and another row possibly will just be 6-inch bed instead of these are approximately 12. Because I don't have to have them 12. They are easier to work with, I guess, but to save some money, I'm probably going to do that. I may put like a new set over there. I don't know. It just depends on how it goes. If the chickens get moved, or I may take all these new beds and cut them in half and make 2 new rows. Who knows? So that is basically the setup. That's what I'm going to be doing for each bed. I've already connected it to my T, so I'm just gonna run down to the next spot where I'm gonna put the next one up to the bed, put a T, I'll go up, put a corner, put a shut off, and put an end, and stake them down. And that's what I'm gonna do with the remaining, I don't even know, 11 beds that I have. So yeah, hopefully I get it done before it gets too hot. All right, note to self and a tip for you: buy more than what you think you're gonna need, because you're gonna change something, and when you do, you're gonna run out because you bought the exact amount you needed of something. So I did run out of something, so I finished as much as I could of that part, and now I'm gonna go and I'm gonna show you how I put in the actual drip tubing and show you why I ran out. So I decided to go from here, and I turn and I go on the opposite side of these beds, of course, so my shut-offs are on the same side of every bed, but I did put a T right here, which is normally not a T right there. It's usually a corner, a 90, because I'm going to take it over here to my rhubarb that is up against this fence. Since this will be permanently here, I decided to go ahead, run a black tube over to the fence, and then I'm going to run drip tubing that way and run drip tubing the other way. That way, when I turn it on, my rhubarb is watered and good to go, because it's going to stay here, so I figured that's okay to put a permanent one in right there. One thing I do wish I would have done was weed eat the garden before I started, because I have been pulling some weed if they're very tall up against the raised beds. But one of them I did put behind is some dill that's coming up that's huge. So this dill right here, I put it behind it because this is just monstrous. So I actually had raised rows. If you watched any of my videos from last year, I had raised rows right here, and I had brought in some manure and made the raised rows. So some of this dirt is pretty fertile under there, which I didn't think of that whenever I put these new raised beds in, or I probably would have made them all half, like I mentioned earlier, and utilized that really good soil under there. And that's why I planted some stuff over here and put this weed fabric down to kind of help. So this stuff should be pretty good over here. This should be pretty good. And that's why I'm thinking about taking these down half for next year, which does kind of mess with my irrigation just a little bit. I'll just have to cut down the part that goes up and just redo it there. But I don't think that will be such a big deal. I'll just move it down and that's it. But yeah, I didn't think of that before I put all these in. But let's go ahead and get some of this drip irrigation actually in the beds, and I'll show you how easy that is, and hopefully we'll get some of this done. All right, so we're gonna get started on the actual drip tubing. I'm gonna move to 2 beds that were finished last year because I never did actually put the tubing in there because they had something different in them, and I'll show you what I'm going to do to the small 3x3 beds. But always check your stash, because I found 2 more ends that I forgot that I had, so I won't have to buy any ends. I will have to just buy tees for sure, and I was gonna have to buy some of these, but thought I had bought them, but I couldn't remember, or I had purchased them, I guess I should say. And so what I'm going to do with these, I'll show you. Now before, I just put a stake here, but instead of using the stakes, I'm just going to go ahead and put this here. I'm going to screw these down. That way it holds this down and I don't use another stake, because I am going to have to get more of these silver stakes, because I did use them back over there on that weed fabric. The weed fabric was blowing up, it was moving around, and I had only purchased enough of those black or those silver stakes for this. So, you know, there you go again. I should have purchased more because they come in really handy. So I am going to get a few more packages of those as well. But I'm just going to go ahead really quickly. I'm going to go ahead and put these down, and then we will get started, or I'm going to put these where they go. I'm not going to screw them down yet. And then we're going to get started on the drip tubing. Hopefully I get this done before my battery dies, but you can see this is a short tubing, and then there's even another one in here because I did have something in here for this last. So what I'm going to move these, I'm just going, actually, I'm going to remove this one, and I'm going to turn this one off because I have these little flaggers in. So this one can just stay in here, and actually, you know what? We'll just leave it on. And I'm going to take and replace this other one that actually is going to go and kind of wrap in a circle around in these smaller 3-foot beds. These plain ones, I believe, are what Menards had. I can't remember, I think so. These I got on clearance at Walmart, I believe, like a few years ago. I don't even know. Yeah, I think so. So you can get either one, it doesn't matter. These do allow you to turn them off or on, and but these are super easy to use. And so this is the one I'm going to be using with this one. It just goes in the end of the tube with the barb. This is what's going to go in the black. And then if you'll notice, there's bigger parts of where the drip part is. So you have to just kind of cut in between that when you're cutting. Don't cut too close to this because that is what drips. So I just poked that right back in that hole that was in there. There is an actual tool, I'll show you a little bit, that has made that a lot easier. And now I'm just gonna kind of measure this out and loop it around. This is so much easier if all this wasn't actually in here. All right, well, you can kind of see that I kind of wound it in there. I don't know if you can see that. I did put the netting back on. Cabbage that I'm probably gonna pull out soon. Weed in there as well. And yeah, that would be much easier if you put it in and then plant. So note to self. This is what I keep most of my ends in, and this is the little tool, and I keep the tag on it and it in there so that I know where it's at. This is what we're going to use to poke a hole in the black, and then add a barb, a line, and put one of these on the end of the drip line. So here's our drip. We're back far enough away to the end of it that came out of the package. So, and again, this is easier to do if it's out in the sun a little bit, but you're just going to get it over that barb, wiggle it on there a little bit, and then I'm going to puncture the hole, the tool. We're going to put this out and kind of measure where we want the end, and then we'll cut it and put the end in it. I've actually got kale holding you up right now, so I'm just going to put it on the end because I'm going to wrap it from here and just kind of go that way. So you just take this little tool, put your hole in it, so much easier. And I go ahead and put this on together because it makes it here. And that's it. Now it's in there. And you can always move this, take this out. You can plug it with one of these. So you can see a little bit better this one, and because this is rolled up kind of finicky, it doesn't want to do what you want it to do. So I guess the plants are kind of good to have in here, but I just took it around the outside, brought it around, wrapped it a little bit more into here where smaller stakes would probably come in handy. So it might be something you want to do. You could always remove them later once the line. You could always remove them later once the line has been heated and it's gonna lay where you want it to lay. So all in all, I mean, that's pretty easy to do. I went ahead and picked some kale while I was in there because that made it easier to put it down. So I'm gonna go ahead and cover that back up and move on to the next one. So I finished well, actually I have one more small 3x3 bed, but I'm going just down the line and back because I actually haven't gotten anything in that one yet. And so on these 3x6 beds, I'm gonna put 3 rows, just like I showed you earlier in the other ones. And in the middle of, like, if you divide it into 3 feet, then in the middle, so like 6 inches off the side and then every foot. So I'm gonna put them right down the center of like the square foot gardening. And so I'll put 3 and I'll run them all the way to the end, stake them, and then that should get most of everything that is planted in there. So I'm gonna get that done. I'm gonna finish those. I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. I'm about to run out of battery, so I decided to go ahead and show you in one of these that's already done. So you'll notice this is where it comes up. Here's the black, and then I have 1, 2, and then there's another one hidden in here too. And so those are approximately, now I don't measure exactly, and they run all the way down the bed. So you'll notice most of my stuff planted, those, they're doing rather well. You'll notice the dead stuff is actually weeds that I've pulled out and just shaken the dirt off and laid down. So that is what the rest of these will look like. So so I'm not going to show you that because I actually have another video on irrigation, but this is just like the other. I'm going to poke a hole in the black. I'm going to put the little stops in there, put the ends on the tubing, run it down, and stake it, even though I don't have stakes, so I got to get some more of those. But that is the gist of it. So I'm going to try to get that done before it gets too much. The sun comes out too much more and it gets more, gets warmer, get my words out. And, but I'm going to finish that and get inside probably and do some work in there. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you're inspired a little bit. I'm going to try to leave the links down below of where I got the stuff. I don't make any money off of that or anything like that. They're just Menards links, and maybe, I don't know if I got stuff off of Amazon, maybe like one thing. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. Be sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to be lovely lights today. Real quick, a really side note, if you want to go ahead and cut one to length and then pull out the rest and cut 4, that way you're going to put 3 down, you're going to have another one as a pattern, you're going to cut, you know, 4 more, put 3 down, and so forth. That makes it much easier than trying to take the whole row down there and cut it. That way you've got them, you can just put them in.